Hello everyone. In today's video, I will read to you chapter 12, the book of the law of money. My first mindset of an entrepreneur. How I make money grow. When I was young, I did not learn about money from textbooks, seminars, or motivational speakers. I learned it from a piggy bank. It sat quietly in the corner, round and heavy, swallowing coins one by one. Each coin drop carried a small promise. I did not count them daily. I did not obsess over how much was inside. I only knew one thing: the bank was getting fuller, heavier, more alive. And one day it reached its limit. There was no elegant way to open it, no key, no gentle release. The only choice was to break it. I still remember that moment clearly, the hesitation, the excitement, the strange mix of loss and anticipation. Breaking the piggy bank felt almost sinful, as it were destroying something sacred, yet at the same time it felt necessary. The bank had served its purpose. It was no longer meant to hold money, it was meant to be released. When it finally broke, the sound of coins spilling onto the floor was unforgettable. The clinking, the rolling, the sudden abundance that had been hidden inside something so small. I remember sitting there staring at the pile, amazed, not just by the amount, but by the realization that this came from my patience, my restraint, my choice to save. That moment planted the first seed of the entrepreneur mindset. Money is not meant to be trapped forever. It's meant to move, to transform, to become something more. An entrepreneur understands this instinctively. They know when to hold and they know when to release. They do not worship the container, they honor the purpose. The first investment was not a business, it was a book. With that money, I did not buy candy. I did not chase temporary pleasure. Something inside me wanted more than consumption. I wanted growth, so I bought my first book. I still remember the smell of the pages, crisp and clean. The cover felt like a doorway. Holding that book felt different from holding money. Money carried possibility, but the book carried direction. That was my first investment. At the time, I did not call it that. I was unfamiliar with the language of finance and entrepreneurship, but instinctively I understood something powerful. Money that expands the mind multiplies itself. I began to collect books. One became two, two became five. Each book opened a new way of thinking, a new lens through which to see the world. I was not just reading words, I was absorbing courage, imagination, and ideas bigger than my circumstances. This is where many people misunderstand entrepreneurs. They think entrepreneurship begins with a business plan, capital, or ambition, but it actually begins with curiosity. An entrepreneur mindset asks, how does it work? What else is possible? How can this become more? Books trained my mind to ask those questions. They taught me that wealth begins internally, long before it appears externally. Seeing opportunity where others see objects. After reading the books, I did not stack them neatly on the shelf to collect dust. Something inside me resisted that kind of stillness. Knowledge, like money, felt wrong when left unused. So I made a simple decision. I rented the books out. to my siblings, to friends, to anyone who wanted to read 10 cents, sometimes $1, nothing fancy, no contract, just trust and curiosity. What mattered was not the amount, what mattered was the pattern. The books went out into the world and they came back with coins. Those coins bought more books. Those books went out again, cycle repeated. Without realizing it, I had created my first business model. This is a defining trait of the entrepreneur mindset. The ability to see potential where others see possessions. To someone else, those books were just books. To me, they were assets, teachers, bridges between knowledge and value. Entrepreneurs do not wait for permission to begin. They observe, they experiment, they allow small ideas to breathe and evolve. My saving account began to grow, not because I chased money, but because I respected the circulation, reinvestment, and the courage to trust the cycle. Every coin that came back did not stay long in my hands. I invested it. More books, better books, wider subjects. Each reinvestment felt like saying yes to the future without knowing exactly what it would look like. This is where fear separated savers from entrepreneurs. A saver asks, "What if I lose this?" An entrepreneur asks, "What if this grows?" Reinvestment requires trust, not blind trust, but informed trust. It requires the belief that effort, intention, and wisdom create momentum. It also requires emotional maturity, the ability to delay gratification, to tolerate uncertainty, to let money move without clinging to it. I learned early that money responds to confidence, not control. When money feels respected but not imprisoned, it tends to return, often multiply. This is why the entrepreneurial mindset is deeply connected to self-trust. If you do not trust yourself, you will try to freeze money in place. You will fear spending, fear investing, fear expansion. But when you trust your judgment and your values, money becomes a partner rather than a threat. Entrepreneurship as a way of being. Looking back now, I see entrepreneurship was never just about making money. It was about how I related to life. Breaking the piggy bank taught me release. Buying books taught me growth. Renting them taught me creativity. Reinvesting taught me trust. These lessons extend far beyond business. The entrepreneurial mindset is not limited to those who own companies. It belongs to anyone who takes responsibility for their inner world, see challenges as raw material, chooses learning over stagnation, understands that value is created, not demanded. An entrepreneur does not wait to be rescued by circumstances. They work with what they have, where they are, with humility and courage. This mindset is especially important in how we relate to money. Money mirrors our beliefs. If you believe you are powerless, money will reflect that. If you believe you can learn, adapt, and grow, money begins to cooperate. Entrepreneurship is not about being aggressive or relentless. It is about being awake to opportunity, awake to responsibility, awake to the truth that abundance is not something we chase, it's something we cultivate. The child who broke a piggy bank did not know she was learning the laws of money, but she felt joy, trust and curiosity, and those feelings became the foundation of everything that followed. That is the mindset of an entrepreneur. Not greed, not speed, but awareness, courage, and willingness to let life and money flow. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy it. And please tune in for the next chapter.